All right, let's answer your question and give you some good news.
Yeah, I was afraid you were going to say that.
I'm on her side, and I don't know exactly what her side is.
I think you're totally spot on with that.
I sound inept just to help you out.
It's been a rough week, thanks to your advice.
Are you a regular listener to this program?
As much as I can be.
There's your problem.
I would not ever disagree with you because you're so smart. You have a lot of answers to a lot of things.
You don't want to listen to me on the radio.
So what do I do?
I can't give you any direction.
Thank you for empowering me. I needed that.
I'm losing you, buddy. I don't know what you're trying to say.
Well, do you know somebody who does?
Now, from the studios of Living Bread Radio Network in Canton, Ohio, the hometown of Mother Angelica, here's Dr. Ray.
Very nice to be with you. The Doctor's In. This is our Friday variant of The Doctor's In. It is Look Back Friday. We've been doing this now, Andrew, my producer man, for, oh gosh, it's got to be pushing 12 years. Had a friend say to me once, anytime you estimate how long ago something was or how long ago something started, and you pick a number of years, double it. I recently asked Andrew, I said, how long have you been doing this? 5, 6 years? And he went back and looked in the archives, and at that time, he said, no, it was about 11 years. Whoa. Okay, 11 years. I just gotten out of college. Something like that. Well, maybe not quite. Not quite. On Look Back Friday, we take previous calls. When I say we, I'm talking about me and Andrew. I point them out. He edits them. Not we as in me and you. The we part with me and you is when we play these calls, and then if you listen, then it's me and you listening, so we listen. So all that said, we look at previous calls, and some of them go back to 3-4 months. There was a reason. Every call could be a look-back call. That's true. But calls are selected for various reasons, sometimes because an issue came up in the call that I didn't have time to talk about, and I wanted to talk a little more, wanted to expand on the matter. Sometimes in the call, a person uses a term that needs a little more explanation. I don't have time to stop and explain the term. Sometimes on a look-back call, the caller directs it in a certain direction, but I was wondering, maybe if we went in this other direction, but I didn't. I went with the caller, so look-back calls, I can take it in another direction. I suppose the main reason that a look-back call is selected, it's selfish. I want to talk more. Yeah, I just have more to say. That's the way it is. So we'll get to those look-back calls after our opening monologue. One of the more frustrating things in a relationship, particularly in a marriage, is someone very reluctant, resistant, or totally unwilling to say sorry for whatever the reason. And people ask me that. Why are some folks, some spouses, some young adults, some friends so unwilling to ever say sorry? There are several high-profile reasons. One, I don't think I was wrong. Okay, that's one. That's one. When people have a dispute, a disagreement, some kind of friction, they may not think that they were the main culprit in the friction. The other person is far more blameworthy than I am. I don't need to apologize. If anybody's going to apologize, it's them. My objective, that is, estimate is that they were 82% wrong and I was only 18% wrong. So why should I apologize for 18% when they're 82? Of course, this is a subjective judgment. This doesn't mean that it is reality. But that's how we operate. One, I don't think I did anything wrong. The other person thinks you did, but you don't. Okay, that's one. Another one, and this is big. This is in the realm of personality traits. The more insecure someone is about who they are or about their competence level, their self-image is a little fragile, the less likely they are to apologize. Why? Because an apology means too much. It means I'm a failure. It means I'm a screw up. It means I'm incompetent. It means I'm a jerk. It doesn't mean that. An apology means, very simply, at that particular place and time, I acted badly, or wrongly, or immorally, or foolishly, or hurtfully, or angrily. That's what it means. I acted bad. Not necessarily I'm a bad person. I acted foolishly. Not that I'm a fool. I acted dumb. Not that I'm stupid. But when someone interprets giving an apology that way, they're going to be much less likely to apologize. So keep that in mind for those of you who are frustrated by spouses who never apologize, and you think it's because they think they're superior. They think they're never wrong. It's probably the other way. Probably a little too unsure to admit wrong. It takes self-confidence to admit wrong. It truly does. If I apologize, am I saying that I'm all wrong and you're all right? Because people interpret it that way. Maybe there's been an argument or something, and I apologize for my part in the argument. What I said, my voice, my tone, whatever it was, I apologize for it. But if I'm thinking, because I apologize, by implication, I'm saying you didn't do anything wrong, then I'm going to be less likely to apologize. I don't want to convey the message that I think you're faultless and I'm faultful. Ooh, that's a good way to put it. I should have put that in one of my books. That's a factor. Another reason, and I say this to anyone who would like more apologies from another person, the apologies are going to be thrown back at me. Sorry is just words. If you're truly sorry, you'd change. Boy, you sure don't want to hear that when you go to confession to the priest who knows you, recognizes your voice, or you go face to face and he knows you and you're saying the same sins, confession after confession. How'd you like him to say, you know, you say you're sorry, but you're still saying the same things. I'm not going to give you absolution. If you were truly sorry, you'd change. You don't want to hear that, do you? Well, likewise, you don't want to do that to somebody who apologizes. You don't want to assume that it is just a superficial, let's get past this. I'll say what I have to say. I'm not really sorry. You start thinking like that, and you're likely to blatantly or subtly give off a message, I don't buy what you're saying. And that is one of the quickest ways to decrease the frequency of apologies that you receive. If I'm going to apologize to you and I know you're not going to accept it, then there comes a point where I start to say to myself, what good is it to apology? Good is it to apologize? Just gets thrown back at me. I don't want to be fooled. Oh, my spouse, he'll just say he's sorry when he just wants to get past it. That's all. He's just trying to get over all this. Well, okay, you're not being fooled if you know that you're accepting the apology because you don't want to throw it back at him. If you're thinking to yourself, I'm really doubting the genuineness of this apology, you can do that. But to take it a step further and then accuse of an insincere apology, that's when you start teaching the other person, don't apologize. Don't apologize because I won't buy it. Sometimes you throw an apology back in someone's face because in your mind what they did was particularly nasty or disrespectful or egregious. So when they apologize, your attitude is, that's not enough. You're not penitential enough. What you did was really wrong, in my opinion. So don't go trying to say sorry because of that, because it won't work. You have that attitude, Don't complain that you're not hearing apologies then, because you're judging the sincerity of the apology on the spot, and you can be wrong as much as you can be right about it. Lots of reasons why people don't apologize. Insecurity. I'm not wrong. I don't think I did anything wrong. I don't want you to think you have nothing to apologize for, and I have everything to apologize for. I don't want it rejected. If I come humbly seeking your forgiveness and my words are rejected, might not do that too often in the future. There's a lot of reasons why apologies aren't given. Don't make one of those reasons be because the apology was not accepted. I'm Dr. Ray.
Do you own popular index mutual funds or ETFs? If so, you're automatically own shares of companies that conflict with your moral beliefs. Ave Maria mutual funds are managed to conform to pro-life and pro-family values. Long-term investors can invest in the no-load Ave Maria mutual funds. The experienced professional portfolio managers make decisions based on investment fundamentals and pro-life values. You can learn more about Ave Maria mutual funds today at 866-AVE-MARIA or visit AveMariaFunds.com.
In the hallways of the school where I teach, anxiety is at every turn. The anxiety to get the right grades, to get into the right school with the right career program, to find the right job and then the right spouse. We think it's all up to us, but it isn't. Do we not believe that we inhabit a design, a pattern, created by God at the very beginning? All that is required is that we love and move in His love. Then trust. 17 years ago, one of our sidewalk counselors, Edmund, was involved in helping a woman who had come to the abortion clinic. When the baby was born, she named him Edmund. Many years later, she came to the Guadalupe worker's office and related how her son Edmund had been supporting the whole family since his parents had been both out of work. She did not realize that the person to whom she told the story was Edmund. GuadalupeWorkers.org.
This year, Guest House is celebrating its 70th anniversary. Opening their doors in May in 1956 in Lake Orion, Michigan, Guest House is the world's most successful treatment center designed exclusively for the ordained and consecrated, including those in formation. For 70 years, they've been a beacon of hope and healing for more than 8,000 guests seeking lasting recovery from addiction and other behavioral health conditions. Support their mission today at guesthouse.org. That's guesthouse.org.
Dr. Ray Garandy here. Program Doctor is in. Co-production of the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network and Ave Maria Radio Communications. There in Ann Arbor, my producer man Andrew Kruchek, who edits these look-back calls, and he says he has to listen to them 3 times. First time around, then when he edits them, and then when he hears them again on Look Back Friday. Poor guy. Poor guy. So, that said, I came across 2 surveys. One said 1 out of 4. Another one said 2 out of 5. What were they measuring? 1 out of 4 family members is estranged from 1 or more family members. 2 out of 5 in the other survey. Maybe it's a later survey because it is happening with more frequency. And it's happening in America a lot. I would have to say our country would be the number 1 country. I'm not aware of a whole lot of actual surveys done in other countries. And one of the reasons I think this is, especially in the underdeveloped countries, it doesn't happen. Not like this. Not like this. Family generationally is a lot more tight. Stay together. In the U.S., this has just been happening the last 20, 30, 40 years, and it's an explosive rate. It is, what's the word in the mathematics used? Not linear, but it's an exponential function. It's just going up fast, real fast. And my experience is, and this could be part of me being on Catholic media, is that the younger generation is more likely to sever contact with the older generation when there isn't overt pathology or family dysfunction. It's just more or less that I don't like the way you raised me. I don't like who you are. I don't like your politics. I don't like your religion. You've said things that have bugged me, etc., etc., etc. Mary is calling from Texas. She says, keeping with this theme, her adult daughter blames her for everything.
This is something that I have been seeing happening in friends of mine. We're all in our 70s and have daughters like in the 38 to 45-ish age range. And stepping back, I'm wondering, is this leftovers from woke that happened in the 2020 and just all kinds of crazy thinking that my daughter informed me she has been going to therapy to the tune of $245 an hour every Thursday for
wow.
Who knows how long.
I'm too cheap. Yeah. Holy mackerel.
Yeah. Well,
I'll charge anywhere near that.
This gal has her all the way back to my grandmother's grandmother and how all the women in the family lived horrid lives and were never healed, and we have passed down all this horridness to her.
So wait a minute, time out. This counselor pronounces all of these women whom she has never seen as having all kinds of pathological, psychological issues. Just want to make sure I understand that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Because of circumstances that happened in their lives, starting back with the one that was widowed during the Civil War and had 5 children, and then one of those children, she grew up and she had children, and there was fathers that died, and life happened in every generation. I did not realize it was.
So this generational thing has just continued with your daughter looking at you and all the ways you fouled up her upbringing.
Exactly. And, okay, I fully get generational curses, but I fully get healing and redemption. But when I asked her, well, are you all talking about grace and mercy and healing? And, well, Mother, until you get to a counselor, are you in counseling, Mother? Do you not even understand this? You're just gaslighting me. And I'm going, ooh.
And she knows, your daughter knows the words, don't she? Your daughter knows the words. Has she accused you of being toxic, and she has to set up boundaries because you're a narcissist?
Absolutely. And all these things. But when she carefully said, I now know I lived every day of my life disappointed.
Wow.
I almost burst out laughing because it was so ridiculous. And then, but Holy Spirit, thank you for keeping my poker face and just listened to what she was saying. And it was at that point the Holy Spirit said, this is it. This is what you're up against. And I've never thought about fighting my daughter in the flesh over this. This has been brewing about 10 years now. My concluding words to her, I said, you are 43 years old now. I'm 71. When we can talk to each other as 2 grown women with grace and mercy and understanding and seek healing together and not fight each other, I will be happy to continue this conversation.
All right, Mary. So much to say here. So much to say. First of all, I did a monologue recently on how a lot of therapists are looking at the way these clients are telling them they were raised and just flat out accepting the subjective portrayal of the client and immediately assuming that these parents were as evil and awful and terrible and abusive and nasty and toxic as the kids are describing them. That's the first thing. A good therapist knows that you've got to be very, very cautious, especially when somebody is emotionally distraught, to to listen and try to get a better grasp on the reality of the whole situation. That's one. Two, sadly, I'm seeing more and more therapists advise this, where they tell the kids, well, for your own peace, you need to separate. You need to put boundaries. You need to distance yourself. You need to sever because these people are just tough. Now, the interesting thing about therapy focuses on the self. Christianity focuses on the other. So therefore, in therapy, you would expect a lot of therapists to say, well, if you're not at peace, if you're not contentful, you need to just extricate, get out of those situations, those people. Christianity would say, well, as far as possible, you need to forgive. You need to be tolerant. You need to be understanding. Okay, these are not evil people. These are people you just didn't like the way you were raised. Now, all that said, it would seem to me that your daughter at age 41, and here's the question I was going to ask you, Mary. It sounds like her own life hasn't been all that contented and peaceful and situationally satisfactory. I've seen some surveys. I don't want to get into these kinds of generalizations too much. But the folks more likely to sever contact with their parents when they become adults or certain ages are women, and a high percentage of one survey, 61%, described the women as much more likely to consider themselves progressive, non-traditional, left, very left. And associated with that, if you look at other studies, that's more likely when you take that particular perspective on life that you're less likely to be religious. So that said, there are more and more numbers, higher numbers, of people, women, like Mary's daughter, who's just decided that Mary is kind of a lost cause. Mary is the source of all of her distress, all of her adult struggles. It's Mary's fault. I had a client very recently crying in my office because her daughter basically said, ignore me, ignore my birthday. I don't want you coming around. You're so caught up in yourself. Now, I know this client. I've seen her for a long time. She's anything but that. She's a very thoughtful lady. She's a religious lady. She's a kind lady. She's done much for her daughter. And her daughter just basically said, get out of my life. Get out of my life. Now, as very typically happens, when I ask and explore and I probe about what these adults are like, what they're living their own life like, you find out that they're oftentimes estranged from other people too. They've cut contacts with other relatives. They cut contacts with friends, or they've been fired because they can't get along at work, or they're depressed, or they're anxious, or they're miserable. That's very common profile. These are unhappy people, sometimes very miserable. And they turn on their parents. Now, Dr. Ray, come on. Sometimes you have to separate from your parents. And I've had this here. I've had calls come into this program where they'll say, my mom, my dad is so dangerous, so difficult, so completely disrespectful and argumentative. There's no way we can get along with them. Okay, that happens. Oh, gosh, I'm running up against a break. I want to talk more about this. Don't leave me. I'm Dr. Ray. I want to keep going. I want to look back on our look back. Quick summary. Mary's adult daughter. I think Mary said daughter's 30s, 40s. Blames her for everything, and I made the comment about how this is so very, very common. I see it more often with the women severing contact with their parent or parents, blaming them for all kinds of bad things. And I was talking about that percentage of cases where, yes, indeed, sometimes limiting or cutting contact is necessary in extreme cases, but much of what's happening is not extreme cases. It is, I don't like who you are. I don't like the way you were raised, etc. I don't like the way I was raised. Whatever. It was a variance, a systematic system in the way we look at life. My approach to life as a young adult. Well, these aren't even young adults anymore. Now they're in their 35s, 40s, 45s. You know, you can sort of expect some of it when you're 20, but it's happening very, very much in 30s, 40s, and 50s that they're simply saying, I don't want anything to do with my parents anymore because my parents are pathological. One of the points that I see more and more of is that when you get therapists got to be careful. They can create unwittingly a real self-focus, a self-absorption, a victim mentality. Mary's daughter said, "You've never been to therapy, so you can't make any observations." Oh, come on, please. Therapy really depends upon the skill, the judgment of the therapist. And I'll tell you, my experience, I've been at this for so many decades, my experience is a lot of therapists, if they're not careful, they can do a lot of damage. They can convince somebody that, in fact, your life is absolutely as miserable as you say, and you need to do anything you can to get rid of all that misery, and that means getting rid of a whole bunch of people. That's the source of your misery, rather than saying the source of your misery much of the time is yourself, your thinking, your decisions, your judgments, your behavior. Mary said this. She said an interesting thing, and I have to say I only see a minority of parents talk in this way. But she said, okay, all right, if you believe that I am all this that you say I am, that I was all this that you say I was, I will accept that. I will respect it, and I will leave your life until you might decide to reconnect. I've had a lot of parents tell me that they've been so terribly mistreated or they've had the relationship severed, and the child is still in the will. I think you got to make a real decision. If a kid cuts you off, I don't understand why you would, this is me, you do what you want, but why someone would say, well, okay, I'm still going to just leave you the house or this amount of money. Why? Well, I don't want him to hate me while I'm gone. Well, I'll tell you, if you're in heaven, it's not going to matter, and if you're in hell, it's not going to matter. So at this point, depending upon how long the estrangement lasts, I've had parents tell me it's 20 years. And of course, with all this is this sense of failure, this sense of guilt. I must have done something wrong in raising this person that they think this way. No, that assumes you are the absolute only influence in their lives. You're one, but the other influences are the culture, which really, really is pounding people to be intolerant. Heavy, heavy, heavy. Also pounding people to become victims and to look at all the ways they've been mistreated by everybody. That didn't used to be in our culture. That was not the way it was. I don't know if we could have won World War II if that attitude was there. And the child's personality, the child's temperament, whether emotions rule that child or not, how much they rule the child. It's a real tragedy. I would say that I'm dealing more and more and more with parents coming into my office. And from what I can tell, I talk to them. Now, obviously, I don't live their lives, but I talk to them, and you develop a sense of how reasonable they are. You develop a sense of their insight. You develop a sense of their motives and their well-meaning conduct. And many of them are just decent people. Or even if they're not the best people in the world, they certainly aren't so bad that they deserve to be totally shut off. And what I'm seeing is a massive amount of intolerance among these young adults or not so young adults, that next generation who's just decided you're at fault. You're at fault for every way that I am. I don't look at me. I look at you to explain why I'm living a life that isn't as content as I'd like it to be, or is more frenetic or jumbled or psychologically unstable. It has to be your fault. Couldn't be mine. Fallen human nature looks outside oneself for the cause of his problems. That's our bent. I'm not gonna first scrutinize me. I'd rather scrutinize you. Scrutinize other people as the cause of my distress. And if you're a young adult of that generation, who are you most likely to look at? Your parents. Well, you live with them for 18, 20, 22 years. So obviously, if you're going to say, well, why am I the way I am? Well, hey, come on, 20 years of influence, it's got to be them. Mom said to me one time, she was just racked with guilt. She said, what was it about me? What was it about me? I feel like such a failure. What did I do? I said, well, I can kind of capture in one word what is the cause of this adult child of yours writing you off. Please tell me, Dr. Ray. That one word is human. You were human. With all of your faults and your failings and your inconsistencies that we all have. Sinfulness that we all have. But not enough to deserve being cut off. And unfortunately, in our over-psychologized society, this younger generation is looking at the older generation and saying, psychologically, you just did it all wrong. You taught me stuff that I don't want to learn anymore. You taught me morals I don't agree with. You taught me religion I don't like. Oh, the only thing I need to do is get away from you. It's an interesting phenomenon, and it's starting to be noticed by the secular media. I'd like to think I am somewhat magniloquent in my badinage.
The doctor will be with you in just a moment.
Anxiety is in its many, many forms, whether it's a phobia, whether it's generalized anxiety disorder, whether it's a panic attack, whether it's obsessive compulsive disorder. There's just many, many forms of anxiety. Number one reason why people seek counseling, some form of anxiety. We're a very anxious society. And what used to be very realistic, threatening reasons for anxiety, which would be, well, a rough, unpredictable life. A lot of that's gotten rid of. We're really not in danger like many past cultures used to be. You could be conquered. Conquering was kind of a routine of world history. Or you could be assaulted or threatened or killed for any number of reasons. Illness hit you. Illness hit many kids, killing them before age 5. A lot of reasons for very, very potent anxiety in existence in human history. Well, our culture is different than that now. For the most part, we're relatively safe. We don't really have actual threats like previous history has. So where's all this anxiety coming from? Joan from Illinois called in talking about this anxiety.
You were wrong. Well, we were both wrong.
Whoa, wait a minute. You don't start out the call like that.
I thought that would calm you down. Or,
Jeez.
I guess not.
How'd you get past my screener?
I know. I'm sorry. I told him I didn't know where I was going with this because I didn't want you to feel like you were wrong. So, but we...
Well, remember, I can feel like I'm wrong and realistically not be wrong. So go ahead.
Well, it was that I was having, and it started exactly a year ago. It was on Christmas. I got this horrible rash on my neck. And then I saw a dermatologist throughout the year. It was happening like on holidays and important occasions. And she did a biopsy. We couldn't figure it out. What I thought I was absolutely sure when I called you was, you know what? I'm thinking it's got to be anxiety because I am sort of an anxious person. Not sort of. I am an anxious person. And it's happening on holidays. And then you gave me a good talk. I wrote down every word about.
So you could call in and tell me I was wrong, particularly.
Yeah. But, well, it was just that even when, some of these occasions, I didn't think I was anxious. And, long story short, just to give you the upshot, it's that I finally figured out it's a sunblock that I use on my face, hands, neck. But because I have sun sensitivity and I have to keep covered up, on holidays and special occasions, I go crazy and I show a little more neck, like I wear a V-neck. And so I put more sunblock on than normal. I finally made that connection. So the sunblock is okay on my face, but it's not okay on my neck. Now I have to use two different sunblocks.
So if you don't use sunblock, that blotchiness doesn't happen.
Right. So once I stopped and even when I wasn't having an outbreak, my neck always felt kind of odd and itchy. And when I stopped using it, like within a week, my neck felt back to normal. And it's like, oh my gosh. But the point the reason I wanted to call is what a mess it did with my mind, because I was so sure it's anxiety. But I would say to my husband, but I don't think I'm anxious, but I guess I must be, that my body's reacting this way. And so it it gave me anxiety.
You were anxious about being anxious.
Exactly. And I just wanted your thoughts on that.
Well, first of all, you really have ruined me for this program because the last time I was wrong was 2004. And so now I was wrong again. However, here's where I will defend myself. It's always understood that there could be factors involved that you were not aware of and you didn't communicate.
Right.
Because what you said was, I get this blotchiness at certain times. I am an anxious person by nature, and therefore when it's the holidays or I'm facing someone that might be stress-filled for me, this happens. So what we did, now, here's where I can dodge the wrongful bullet. We talked about how not to be as anxious, which, by the way, you admitted you were. Not as much maybe, but you admitted you were. So what we did is we tried to help the anxiety part of it. Fortunately, there was something even more readily curable, which is to quit using that stuff that you were skin allergic to. So that's wonderfully good news. That's great news.
It is.
Now, if you say to me, therefore, Dr. Roy Ganudi, therefore, your anxiety-ridding advice was not helpful. It was, though, was it not? Because we talked about what anxiety is and what it does to you, right?
It was.
So do you see how slippery and weaselly I can be?
It's excellent. You're excellent.
Because you called in and you were right. You said, hey, here was the factor. Neither one of us saw this. You did, obviously. You know your life way more than I do, obviously. Much of the time when anxiety affects somebody in some ways, unless it's a particularly targeted anxiety, like a phobia, some kind of phobia that interferes with life, or perhaps a panic attack, or just a low level of distressing anxiety or worry about the future, what ifs. There can be factors entering in that cause this. Now, in Joan's case, it was this sunblock she was using. Sometimes for people, it's coffee or caffeine, even sugar. So, yeah, you do what you can to eliminate what could be causative factors in this body's reaction. Because that's what anxiety is. It's the body reacting. It's kind of a fight or flight kind of reaction. Sometimes it's intense, like a panic attack, and sometimes it's low level, like generalized anxiety disorder. Much of the time, there's nothing identifiable. Routinely in a panic attack, somebody will go to the emergency room. Somebody will think, what is going on with me? Am I having a heart attack? Am I going to die? Am I losing my mind? And they think that this indicates something underlying in their system that is seriously wrong, and it's not. It's the fight or flight system just surging for some reason unknown. So that said, once you do your best to eliminate any of those, and most people working in the anxiety field will tell you, get a good physical first, as best you can. Now, for some people, that doesn't even help. I've had clients who have had panic attacks. They've gone to the emergency room. They've gotten a clean bill of health from the emergency room, and then they say, yeah, but wait a minute. Maybe they missed it. Doctors aren't God. You know, I had a friend who had something really wrong with him, and he was given a clean bill of health, and then they found out a month later. So they don't necessarily become mollified because they got a clean bill of health. They are still wondering. That panic attack so shook them up that they're wondering, no, something's really got to be wrong in there for me to have that experience. So that's that. But what Joan said in her first call, because this call was a call back to correct me, which I was against the ropes, ready to take a mandatory 8 count when I slipped out. Notice how I did that? Very weaselly. She did say she was an anxious person, and she did say, interesting, did you catch it? She said something like, even when she doesn't use the sunblock, her neck still feels kind of sensitive and itchy. That's kind of what can happen. It's not kind of. It is what can happen when you have a certain part of your body more susceptible to anxiety. We used to have, when I worked at the mental health center, we used to call these 13, 14-year-old adolescent, pre-adolescent girls belly achers, because they would come in resisting school for these vague digestive problems. And, of course, they'd gotten a clean bill of health. There was nothing wrong they could find. But their belly would hurt. Their stomach would hurt. For them, that was the sensitive part of the body. Headaches, another sensitive part of the body that people experience. So whatever your particular body is wired like, when you have high levels of anxiety, something can break down. And it's different for different people. Joan sounded like she had a little bit of a neck problem even without the sunblock. So I don't know. I don't know if I was wrong. Maybe partly wrong. Maybe. Dr. Ray.
Underwritten in part by the following nonprofit.
Do you feel as though life is flying past you? Are you desperate for a way to find moments of peace and quiet? Lord, Teach Me to Pray, the free Ignatian prayer series, will open your heart to His voice, to the peace you are seeking and the only love that fulfills the human heart, Jesus. God is calling you to true joy, knowing Jesus personally. Lord, Teach Me to Pray is free. Go to LordTeachMeToPray.com, click on the red box, order the Lord Teach Me to Pray series now. Go to LordTeachMeToPray.com.
St. Anthony is one of my besties. I call on him often, mainly because I need his help finding whatever I lost that day. I've called on him for the most minor finds to the most profound, from help to finding my keys to help to finding my way. We all need help at various points in our lives. There's no shame in asking for it, whether it be from a saint to implore for intercessory prayer or a neighbor to help you with yard work. We're not meant to journey alone. We're made for fellowship, friendship, and companionship. As spouses, we're called to get each other to heaven. Parents are charged to raise their children in the faith. Elderly parents might need extra care, and a lonely neighbor might need checking in on. As Christians, we should strive to reach out before someone needs our help. When you're struggling, don't hesitate to ask others for help. You would be amazed at how many people are actually standing by, ready to lend a hand. This has been a Christ-Centered Communication message. I'm Vanessa Denha-Garmo, a communications evangelist and host of Epiphany. Hi, I'm Vanessa Denha-Garmo. Your kids are grown, and the difficult choice of who will raise them in case of an untimely death has passed. Stop making excuses. Go to mycatholicwill.com. A legal will is short and simple, and thanks to our partnership with mycatholicwill.com, when you use the promo code AVE, A-V-E, your will is absolutely free. No hidden costs whatsoever. Visit mycatholicwill.com.
I would not ever disagree with you because you're so smart. You have a lot of answers to a lot of things.
Well, I don't think I have time. I only got about 3 minutes left here. I have time to tackle, I can use that word, another look back. This is C.S. Lewis from God in the Dock, called The Grand Miracle. The Christian story is precisely the story of one grand miracle. The Christian assertion being that what is beyond all space and time, what is uncreated, eternal, came into nature, into human nature, descended into his own universe, and rose again, bringing nature up with him. It is precisely one great miracle. If you take that away, there is nothing specifically Christian left. What he's saying is, people say, well, all religions are the same. No, not at all. Not at all. Christianity is radically different. Don't let anybody ever say that to you. They may have overlap in their moral insights and their moral guidance. There's overlap. They may overlap in good ways to live versus bad ways to live. That's possible just by reason. But Christianity is the only world religion that says the founder of their religion was the creator of the universe. That is so radically unlike any other religion. Now, it's either true or it's not. If it is, then one need look no further. If you believe that in fact Christ was God, you don't look at other religions. Why would you? None of them were founded by a God-man. They were founded by variously wise men, smart men, philosophers, gurus. If in fact Jesus was God, came to earth, did what he did for us, died, rose. That's incomprehensible. That is so hard to understand, to wrap your head around totally. You have to just believe it. Now, there's reasons to believe it. As when I came back to the Catholic faith, I looked at the reasons behind why all this might be true. So it's not just blind faith, it's reasonable faith. But the difference is so dramatic. It's so, if you will, infinite. And Lewis noticed it. He said, you take away that, the whole idea that the God of the universe became man, and there's nothing distinctly Christian left. What he meant was, yeah, well, other religions have a lot of the same moral instruction. Not all of it, because Christianity emphasizes love more than any other religion. No wonder Lewis was such a great apologist for his time. That was written in 1945. God in the Dock. Thank you for joining me here on The Doctor Is In on this Look Back Friday. Thanks, Andrew Kruchek, for your work there in Ann Arbor. I appreciate all the company. Walk with God. That means walk with Christ, too. He was God.
For information on Dr. Ray's presentations, books, and CDs, visit drray.com and follow him on Facebook and Instagram. The Doctor Is In is a co-production of Ave Maria Radio and EWTN Radio and carried across the EWTN Global Catholic Radio Network.